First of all, shout out to Drake, Young Money, Cash Money, album, salute. Definitely, man. Anything with those guys are A1. They took care of their business. Everybody was. I think what it was. It was a surprise last year, whatever, when everybody saw me holding the BMI awards or whatever. And then no one knew that it had anything to do with the Drake record or what have you. Then it was the girl who filmed me and took a piece of what I said. She was like, okay, just took a piece of what I was saying in regards to how I came about the co-write and put that out that I actually wrote the record or whatever. And then I learned then that people like in the music industry, like, let me say this, people in the music industry and then people in general don't really understand the music business of the music industry. Like, a lot of people are doing the music, they don't understand the music business of it. So it was a good opportunity for me to be able to do some music business one-on-one with some people when I explained the co-write, you know what I'm saying? Because up until now, I guess people thought the only way you can get a co-write for a record is to sit in the studio with an artist and actually put pen to paper and write the album out. I mean, write the song out or whatever, but that's not true or whatever. I explained to him, even with my Check and My Fresh video, that when I sampled Jay-Z, just by sampling his words or whatever, sampling what he did, he has to be listed as a writer of the record, you know what I mean? And that's what the same situation that happened with me, you know what I mean? And I was listed as a co-writer of the record due to Drake sampling, interpolating the original record that I did for Lil Wayne, Do It For The Boy. So that's really, you know, what was the whole like mix-up or whatever and all that. But then Drake and G. Roberson and this whole camp, they took care of the BI. Me and Drake got a chance to chop it up at Guys and Dolls at the Grammys or whatever. And you know what I mean? It really was a cool situation or whatever. And they took care of their business like men. And you know, and everybody's getting money or whatever. And it's a blessed situation or whatever. Talk like, you know, it was the whole story or whatever, that whole night or whatever, man, was just crazy how we happened to run into each other, whatever, and at the Grammy after party, whatever. But we ended up getting together, and basically, you know, his whole thing was that, you know, the co-write, you know, he even though he's a great artist or whatever, like, he just hearing someone says that I was in the studio writing his record or whatever is how he may have got the information. So by him receiving misinformation or whatever, and then actually not getting it from me or actually getting the actual quote for myself or whatever, and then after we actually sat down and talked, and even prior to that or whatever, like, you know, once the actual story was actually out and I actually had the opportunity to give my response to it, you know, people actually like understood, and I think his camp understood too, so much so that they took care of the business. They actually bought Lil Wayne actually bought the actual track Do It For The Boy from me or whatever, and we took care of the publishing splits and all that or whatever. So it all worked out cool. I just think it was misinformation or whatever, and you know, the media is a beast. Sometimes when, you know, someone can take a piece of this and put that out there, and then I've never talked to Drake and he hadn't talked to me, and you know, it just was crazy or whatever. And then it's crazy that the connection with his father being from Memphis and me knowing his father and knowing, you know what I mean, knowing his people or whatever, the Grams and all that or whatever, in Memphis or whatever, and stuff like that or whatever. It just was a trip how they kind of came down, but I was glad we was able to actually talk to each other. So, you know, I just think his statement, to make a long story short, his statement was probably was a little premature without knowing what the situation was. But like I said, they took care of the BI and everything was good. Atlantic Records called me. My man Daryl over at Atlantic called me. Absolute was on the phone. They said, yo, it's a record that you produced that I want to buy. The record, he played me the record, and it's the Lil Wayne record, Do It For The Boy. And I was like, it was my first time actually hearing the complete record, because I gave the beat to Wayne back in March of 2008. So I hadn't even heard Wayne produced, I hadn't even heard the finished product of what I produced. So, you know, when I heard that it was Wayne vocals on my phone, I'm like, yo, Wayne actually finished the joint. So I was like, perfect, right? So, you know, so they're like, did Wayne actually buy the beat? I'm like, well, you know, Wayne probably spazzed out on the beat and then he leaked or whatever. He was on the leak mixtape, so he probably don't even know that Absolute's playing it or whatever, because the guy records like so many records or whatever. So they was like, well, if he hadn't bought the beat, you want to buy the beat for Jaheim. All right, cool. Like I explained to Absolute, I said, well, since you're plugging me with this, and if we do sell this track to Jaheim, and if, you know, Wayne don't want to buy the beat or what have you, then, you know, fine, you'll make 20% off of that for plugging me with that. That's just, you know, you make bread, you break bread. It's one thing you do in this business. If somebody plug you with something, you break bread with them. You know what I mean? Or whatever. You make bread and break bread. So that's what I was gonna do with him. But you know, so it turned out is that Jaheim never actually finished the record, never did the record. So about in January 2009, Absolute called me and was like, yo, why did you sell the beat to Drake? And I was like, well, who's Drake? You know what I'm saying? I didn't sell the beat to Drake. And around that time, what happened was Drake was rumored to be about to sign with Atlantic. So there was the whole bidding war going on. So he thought that maybe I had sold the beat to Atlantic, and Atlantic had got the record to Drake is what it was. But I was like, I didn't know who this dude was or whatever. We got Atlantic on the phone, and my publisher, A&R, Manny Edwards, on the phone, and they all confirmed that I didn't sell the beat to Atlantic or whatever, because I'm not that kind of dude. I ain't gonna cross you out anyway. But so that was that on that. But he called me upset, thinking that I crossed him out and thought I sold the beat to Jaheim. But because he was so livid about it, I wanted to just hear the Drake record for myself. I had Manny Edwards send me the record. I listened to it. Me and Manny both listened to it. He'd already had to Do It For The Boy record registered in my Universal Publishing deal already months before, like that in that December. So everything was already logged with the paperwork. So when we listened to both of the records, we both thought it was some similarities to it or whatever. We sent it to musicologists. This was back in January '09. And then it came back in July that that the record indeed was sampled from my record, some of the lyrics and some of the patterns in the music and all that or whatever. And we sell it out or whatever. So basically, the thing happened, and we ended up getting some bread or whatever, and everything worked out. So in that situation, I guess now Absol feels like that he's owed 20%. Absolute never produced the original track. He was just a DJ playing the record that I produced for Lil Wayne. That does not make you a co-producer by playing a record on a radio show. It's like Funk Flex, it's like DJ Lil Larry in Memphis, or Devin Steele, or any one of my guys in Memphis, 007, playing my record and saying, or even Greg Street here in Atlanta, playing my new record, my new single, Relax or whatever, and saying, okay, because I'm playing it, I'm now a co-producer of it. No. So, do you think that possibly if because this record was a huge record in 2009, even if Absolute never would have told me about the record, I would eventually have heard this Best I Ever Had record, right, and I would have got on the phone with Manny, and the same process would have happened. So would I owe? So if you, Steve, would have told me that this record sounds alike, would I have owed you some money because of the fact that you told me that it sounds alike? No, that's just not how the business goes. I will say this. Yes, there probably would be $1 million worth of publishing money made off this record, but that has to be split between Wayne, between myself, between all the writers or whatever and stuff like that. So, hey, yeah, it's going to make some money or whatever over a long period of time or whatever and stuff like that. And, hey, if I pass away, my son will still be able to eat off that record or whatever. So, great. I reached out to him. He's on my email blast. I'm on his email blast. I know what clubs he's spinning at. I email. I've emailed. I try to contact him or whatever. But still, the same thing applies. You're going to be happy with something or be unhappy with nothing. As a man, just because of the fact that even though you didn't call me and you didn't say, "Hey, man, you need to check this record out," your upsetness and you being so livid about this situation, at least put up a flag in my head to at least check it. You know what I mean, or whatever. So just me being 1,000 or whatever, man, like I would say, okay, cool, I'm gonna throw you something, but you're not finna make 20%. You're not a manager. You're not my agent. You know what I mean? You're a DJ. You play records. You know what I'm saying, or whatever. And you've been supporting, and I appreciate the pub because to me it was a good thing to let people know that hey, it is real. And the dude does have something to do with this record. And if you guys understand that, it opened up a lane for me, for people to understand that, okay, the dude is a producer. I'm not just the dude who sings the record so crispy or whatever. Like, I actually produce records. I actually have been running my own company since 2001, you know what I mean, or whatever. I put out Yo Gotti. I used to manage Drummer Boy. I put out a lot of records. So do my discography, read it, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, and do your research about me first. But, I just feel like it's opened that door up to people at least so they can come get beats from me or whatever. At most airplay, R&B, going #1 on the hip hop charts and going #1 on the R&B and hip hop charts. BMI.com or whatever, and then you can look up the actual splits of the record, and it tells you. It's public information of whose name's on the record. And if you look at Billboard or look at Drake's EP, Best I Ever Had, the So Far Gone EP that he released, you can see my name on it. So it's a real thing or whatever. But surpassing that, man, we should just. I just hope we can come to terms with this thing as far as with dude or whatever, as far as with Absolute, because, you know, I hate to lose friends over money. You know what I'm saying? The money will come and go, but the relationships you make, that's what lasts a long time or whatever. So, you know, shout out to Absolute, because I do appreciate the pub, because y'all know Alarm Clock Theory Volume 2 is getting ready to come out. So I appreciate that. The wake up call, the new mixtape is dropping. So I do appreciate that, and I appreciate all hip hop for at least covering the story or whatever. And also, we got to talk about, too, the VH1 thing, Steve, because we got to talk about that.